One of the most influential novels is certainly The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, aged 13 3/4, by Sue Townsend. It presents a fearless view of the life difficulties of a teenager. Apart from the marital disagreements of his parents, his dog, his life as a misunderstood intellectual, his care for a pensioner, Bert Baxter, the protagonist openly writes about a dear and beautiful girl he met on January 14th, somewhere in the 80s. Her name is Pandora Braithwaite, but some people prefer to call her nickname Box, probably because of the phrase Pandora's box. Anyway, her hair has the color of treacle, almost like honey, and her figure is quite good. What also caught Adrian's attention was that his dog's eyes were the same as Pandora's, those beautiful and compassionate eyes. Thus, he took one step forward and tried to communicate with her. As the days went by, he was more and more glued to his crush as she was getting more and more beautiful. One day, she was smiling at her during the school dinner, but he couldn't do it the same because he was choking on a piece of gristle, and that's one moment that made me chuckle for a bit. To his unpleasant surprise, his best friend Nigel found out that Pandora's father was a milkman. It turned out that her father was an accountant for the dairy, and the reason this was brought up was because Adrian expected mostly interesting facts about Pandora's family. Then he was grief-stricken by the fact that Nigel and Pandora were going out together, and it was a real punch in the gut for Adrian. He couldn't recover from that at all. He was contemplating his trickled-haired beauty day and night, day and night. He even had the nerve to draw his best friend drowning because of this whole situation. Other than that, there is another amusing scene in this book, which is that he was sitting next to a bully named Barry Kent. He was such a tough pupil that even their teacher was afraid of him. She couldn't oppose him even when he was picking on Adrian. Yes, but then she could definitely oppose Pandora for wearing Nigel's football scarf, even though she wasn't scary. But that was the time when the St. Valentine's Day was coming. And when that day came, we cannot forget Adrian's first ever poem to Pandora. And it goes like this. Pandora, I adore ya. I implore ye, don't ignore me. And that's really short, but so effective, and it's locked in my memory because of that. Anyway, Adrian found out that Pandora's house was really affluent, majestic, marvelous. He was spying on her and found out that she had a pony named Blossom. She had basically anything and everything, but she wasn't as intellectual as him though. Then his best friend Nigel wasn't with Pandora anymore. He was really heartbroken, but that probably wiped the smirk off his face, for he knew that his best friend fell for the same girl, right? But little did he know that Craig Thomas was next to win Pandora's heart, and Adrian was more than ready to put the bastard down in his daydream. Adrian even drew the Incredible Hulk smashing Craig to bits. Thus, he's really fond of revenge, I must say. A couple of months later, he was wearing red socks at school, which was a taboo. This, as a heroic and brave move, was noticed by none other than Pandora herself. Next day, she appeared in front of Adrian's house. He was really surprised because of that. He is said to be a freedom fighter for the rights of the individual. And then a miracle happened. On June 10th, they were officially in love. Adrian basically exploded from happiness and joy. Even though he was urgently called by Bert Baxter, a pensioner, he couldn't leave without him and his darling holding hands. They were basically inseparable. Not only that they were two lovebirds supporting the pensioner, but that also doesn't change the fact that two heads are better than one. After some days, the time has come for them to exchange the first kiss. And then they spent some time together, they had some privacy, but I'll just spare the details because there is no need to talk about this thoroughly. But still, Adrian almost had a nervous breakdown because he acknowledged that his darling was getting ready for their holiday. She and her parents were en route to Tunis, and it was unknown how the main character was able to survive so long without her, as if she had been the only other person to exist. Yet another interesting fact was that she found a way to communicate with the protagonist. She thought of making a present for his darling, but she gave all her money to an orphan. A very nice present indeed, I must say. Then they had a chance to communicate via phone, and Adrian couldn't care less for the phone bill. If I were him, I would rather keep sending messages, mails. Eventually, the time has come for them to see each other after so many weeks. Adrian was planning to wait for her, but he did that in the wrong place at the wrong time. But still, near her house, they were joyous beyond measure when they saw each other. Now it's the time for the main character to embark on a journey, but he was going to spend precious time with his love. It's about a trip to the British Museum. It's just hilarious how every time something unusual happens, someone vomits, someone shouts, something breaks, and something interferes. It's not only interesting for us readers, but also for those lovers too. They were heroes after all. Their teachers praised them for keeping the class under control. That cannot be said the same for Barry Kent. He was such a menace. Still, when New Year came, out of all New Year's resolutions, one of them stands out. Adrian Mole is going to be true to Pandora. He basically swore to the trustworthiness. Spoiler alert, that didn't last long. Why? Because a couple of months later, those two became members of Pink Brigade. That's a youth club, and they were talking about politics there. Then there was a new company, Barbara Boyer. She and Pandora didn't share same opinions, which would result in a dispute, and Barbara wasn't all for that. However, Pandora didn't want her in her sights, too. But there is always a fly in the ointment. Because of her prettiness, and because she was intelligent and drop-dead gorgeous, Adrian couldn't resist Barbara and eventually cheated on Pandora. It was known by none other than his best friend Nigel, and he spread the whole word. And Pandora was furious, and she even ignored Adrian's birthday, which was at the beginning of April. Poor Adrian. So much for his important resolution. That was the time when England was fighting against Argentina. Yes, the war broke out between them. And later, Adrian was carelessly making a set of an aeroplane, and his nose stuck to the glue, and he had to be sent to the hospital. He couldn't think straight, and he also called Pandora. He was hoping that she would come anytime soon. She did apologize. That is, she forgave Adrian for being with Barbara, but then Adrian just only wanted love as a cure for his insanity, and that love is Pandora, because without her, he's basically nothing. This relationship is basically one hell of a roller coaster, but that makes it also so special. Yes, Adrian and Pandora form the core of this whole series. In my opinion, it's really amazing to me, and basically it's amazing to many readers in the whole world. And the moral of the story is this: you have to take one step forward if you want to show your emotions to somebody, whether you're a boy or a girl. But be careful, there is always a hitch. If you break promises, you basically break hearts.